This is the number one mistake I see new investors make.
Tori Dunlap.
Tori Dunlap.
Tori Dunlap.
She is a money expert and the author
Of the Financial Feminist and the founder of her first 100,000.
One of the most popular financial influencers on TikTok with more than 2 million followers.
Dave Ramsey is probably the foremost financial educator in the country. That being said, this man uses evangelical Christianity and shame. He makes you feel terrible about your choices. He makes you feel like you're fat and you need to lose weight and that's a bad thing. And then he sells you the diet pill, which is his work. I'm a multimillionaire. Money was a feminist issue and it was a woman's best form of protest. I help fight the patriarchy by making women rich. That is my mission. I have a theater degree and a marketing degree. I don't have a degree in finance. I didn't get an MBA from a really fancy university. This is information that has been gatekept from you for a reason. You need like $50. That's all you need to get started. But I cannot emphasize this enough. I need you to get started.
Should women consider a prenup if they're going to get married? Welcome back, everyone, to Diary of an Empath. My next guest is Tori Dunlap. She is a money expert and the author of the New York's best time seller book, Financial Feminist. She believes that the best way to smash the patriarchy is through financial power. Tori, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
I have not had a conversation about financial wealth, financial literacy, and I think it's so important for women because, first of all, so many of us have not even been educated on what financial literacy looks like, and we haven't really had that much experience. I mean, just like, was it 1970 something, we weren't even allowed to have our own bank accounts. So I'm curious for you, if you had to define your mission, what would that be?
I help fight the patriarchy by making women rich. That is my mission. I believe I was put on this earth to fight for women's financial rights. I don't think we have any sort of equality for any marginalized group until we have financial equality. So yeah, my work is to get more money into more women's hands so that they have more options and choices and flexibility in their lives.
Important work. So for you, how did you get into this field? So give me a little bit of an idea of your background. What do I need to know about you and your background to know who I'm looking at and talking to today?
So when I was 22 years old, I graduated college and it was in 2016. It was May of 2016. And I thought I would be entering adulthood and my first job and the rest of the world with our first woman president. And of course, that's not what happened. You know, a couple months later after my college graduation, Donald Trump got elected. And I was just realizing in my own life that when I had money, I had options and choices. And that election really radicalized me. And I was trying to figure out what kind of person I wanted to be and what kind of, impact could I make in the world. And when I saw my friends getting passed over for opportunities, when I saw my female friends not knowing how to navigate personal finance, when I was the friend all my friends were coming to for advice and guidance around money, I thought maybe this is how I can help. So I was working my 9-to-5 in marketing. I was growing her first 100K as a side hustle. It started in late 2016, prompted by the election. And I quit my job in 2019 to run the business full time. We have over 5 million social media followers. We have impacted millions of women, teaching them how to save money, pay off debt, start investing, start businesses, feel financially confident. I'm a New York Times bestselling author of a book called Financial Feminist. I also host the #1 money podcast for women called Financial Feminist. And this is just my favorite thing to do. We can see that when women have money, they have choices, they have options, everything opens up to them. And there's so many, narratives that we believe around money. There's so much emotional weight around money that has nothing to do with joy and abundance and ease, but rather scarcity and shame and fear and anxiety and guilt. So my goal is to get more money into more women's hands, but to also show them that when you are financially stable, every single other opportunity and choice opens up to you.
That's the best answer, I think, around money that I've heard from anybody that I've listened to. And I've listened to a good amount of them, all being men, by the way. So best answer I've heard from you. In 2019, you quit your job and you made your first 100K. You get a call from Good Morning America. Take me back to that time. And how did that change for you? What was it about that moment that pivoted your future?
Yeah. So I was running her first 100K as a side hustle. It was before like a blog about, life as a 20-something woman. We were like in peak Tumblr era, if you can remember back in those days on the internet. And then as it evolved and as I started realizing and having personal experiences where, oh, I'm able to quit this toxic job because I have money, or I'm actually not able to do this thing because I don't have financial flexibility. I started talking more about money and being really explicit that, money was a feminist issue and it was a woman's best form of protest. So in 2019, we rebranded to Her First 100K, kind of inspired by my own journey to save $100,000 at age 25. So my goal was by the day before I turned 26 to have 100K saved/invested. And that was the joke, is if I could do it the day before I turned 26, it still counted. So I successfully achieved that goal. I was in Europe celebrating with my best friend, and I, in a pub in London, got a call to be on Good Morning America to talk about my story. At the time, I was running a successful business and I had every intent to be a full-time entrepreneur, but my work was not loving that my business was getting more successful and getting some press coverage that even they had not received. And although my direct boss was very supportive, it was a small startup and there were other members of the company that, it was very interesting. It was like straight white men in their 40s and 50s who felt weirdly threatened by, a woman who was 25 in her second job out of school. And so I got the call for GMA, and I remember wanting to go to the studio. I was invited to go shoot in New York, and I thought, I can't go to New York because my job's going to hate it. So I went back to my home in Seattle. I shot it, at a satellite interview from there. It was still an incredible opportunity, of course. But then I was basically forced to quit my job 3 weeks later because of, how big of an opportunity that was and how some people at the company were really kind of threatened by that opportunity. And so I wanted to hang on for about 6 more months because I was the person that wanted, every single duck in a row before I quit my job. But it was actually my boss at the time who was like, okay, you have momentum, you have money in the, you have money in the bank, you have a thriving business, your business is making money, go for it. And if it doesn't work, cool, you go get another job. And so I quit my job in November of 2019. So we're coming up on the anniversary of that. And then ran it full time. I remember the first full month of entrepreneurship was January of 2020. And I did $33,000 in revenue in January. And I remember thinking, okay, we can actually do this. I can make this work. I was making 77K, I think, in my previous job for the entire year. And I was like, okay. So by month 3, even as the pandemic was looming, I had made my entire corporate salary in 3 months. And now we're a multi-million-dollar business. I employ 15 women. It's just crazy what's happened since then.
I love that for you. I really do, because it's such a hard leap to go from corporate 9 to 5 to entrepreneurship, especially when you have a money mindset and you're not as I'm not an impulsive person, right? So I actually just made the jump from, I was a federal worker for 15 years and I just left to do full-time entrepreneurship, and it's fucking scary. It is scary. It's a huge leap. So I'm proud of you for doing that. I think that's freaking amazing. That's so awesome.
Well, and that's the interesting thing is, we talk a lot in my podcast, Financial Feminist, my book, Financial Feminist, there's so much of my work where we talk about the money stories that you grew up with and how they impact your day-to-day life. And a stat that shocks people whenever I say it is that the vast majority of your money habits are cemented by age 7, unless you work to change them. So the way you view money, unless you dig in and improve it or, reckon with it, will be cemented for your entire life by 2nd grade because of the way your parents or your caretakers or your family managed money. And my parents were very financially responsible, and I'm very lucky that I learned so much of my education around money from them. But also, as someone who could, win an Olympic gold medal in saving, who is educating, at that time, thousands of women about money, and we're now at millions of women. It's interesting that even my financial trauma or my financial story was, you cannot quit your job. I was 25, again, with money in the bank and momentum and all of these things. And I called my parents, super well-meaning, but they called me and they were like, you need your health insurance. You need a steady paycheck. You can't do this. And because I had grown up with such stability, which again, I'm very lucky for, my parents made really thoughtful choices. They weren't impulsive. I thought, I can't take this risk. This feels too risky. when in fact it was a very, very calculated, well-balanced, intentional risk that I can now jokingly call my parents and be like, hey, remember when you told me not to quit my job? Like, I'm doing pretty fucking well now. So I think that that is one of those things that you just realize that even something that might be considered positive around money is in a certain situation or in a certain light, maybe something that would bar you or keep you from making actually a smart financial choice. So this is why when we talk about money in my work with women, I always want you to, in a way that, again, isn't judgmental or isn't shaming yourself, just asking yourself, like, why do I believe that? Why do I believe that talking about money is impolite when I'll talk to my friends about anything else? Why do I feel like I can't pursue money or that it's greedy to want money? Because I don't want a stack of government issued paper. I just want flexibility, and that's what money can buy me. Why do I feel like I need to just, keep my head down and do good work in order for people to notice me when I've been doing that for years and I haven't gotten a raise, right? There's all of these money narratives I talk about in my book and in my work that we believe, and they end up impacting not only our money, but our entire lives, our relationships, and our general health.
Oh, that's very well said. Our childhood really shapes our belief system and how we look at the world and how we go through the world and our relationship with money. And one thing that, is very prevalent, I think, in this country is debt, right? Debt seems to be the norm for the average American family. One thing that you said recently that I kind of chuckled, Dave Ramsey is the diet pill of personal finance. He makes you feel shame about he makes you feel shame about your choices and then offers you the solution, his products.
Yeah.
Tell me about this. Elaborate, please.
Yeah. So if you're living in a world where you're lucky enough to not know who this person is, Dave Ramsey is probably the foremost financial educator in the country. He is, I will say this before I get into any criticism, he has helped a lot of people. He has improved a lot of people's lives, and he is still the foremost expert on most things personal finance. That being said, this man uses evangelical Christianity and shame to push his products. He makes you feel terrible about your choices, hence the diet pill. He makes you feel like you're fat and you need to lose weight and that's a bad thing. And then he sells you the diet pill, which is his work. He has allegedly, and I say allegedly because the lawsuits are pending, allegedly fired individuals at his workplace or his company for being gay. He has allegedly fired women for being pregnant and not being married. And he just has a plethora of quotes that just are boy, oh boy. My favorite is quote, if you have debt, the only time you should see the inside of a restaurant is if you're working there. Debt is not bad, yet folks like him, I think, have told us and convinced us that one, debt is a bad thing. And two, if you have debt, you're a bad person. And I actually debunk this myth. We have a whole chapter in my book about debt. And that is one of the myths I debunk, because you are not a bad person if you have debt. Debt is a actually fantastic tool for the average person. If I were to go, try to buy a house as an average American, assuming that's even accessible to me, you're probably going to have to take out a mortgage to buy that house. But that might be a smart financial choice for you to up-level your life. If you want to, have, in theory, a good paying job, the easiest path to that is to get a college education. A lot of people cannot pay for a college education out of pocket. When I graduated college, when I was 22, I had to get a car in order to commute to work. I could not pay $22,000 for that car out of pocket. So I took out a car loan. Debt used responsibly is actually a financial strategy and a great tool. And my favorite little fun fact is that debt is only called debt if you are lower income. It actually gets rebranded. It gets a new name if you are rich. And it's what's called leverage. It's why you will see all these celebrities who can afford to buy their $10 million, $20 million mansions with cash actually take out a mortgage, because they don't want to tie up that much cash by paying for it in full. So even that is a great example to me of how debt can be used as a tool that's smart, but debt shame only happens if you are not one of the 1%, because the 1% actually know that debt used responsibly is a very smart strategy.
So what about those that are in credit card debt and they're really struggling, listening to this podcast right now and thinking, okay, I really want to get out of debt. What advice do you have for them? Where does somebody start when they are just snowballing in credit card debt and interest is piling up?
Yep. The first thing you're going to do is you're actually going to save an emergency fund. This is one of those things that kind of seems counterintuitive, especially if you have credit card debt, is you're going, yeah, but I have to eliminate my credit card debt, right? That needs to come first. Here's the deal. Here's why we save an emergency fund first. One, emergencies are always bound to happen. And I don't want you going into more debt or debt period, if you're debt free right now, trying to pay for an emergency. Right. And usually that debt is costly. It is taking out an additional credit card. It's maxing out your cards. So we're going to save that emergency fund first so we don't have to go into more debt. The second thing is, and you will appreciate this, mental health is a huge focus of my work. There is something so powerful about knowing that your head hits the pillow at night and you're okay should something happen tomorrow. And I think that stability and peace of mind is really important because you're not wondering and stressed about being in an emergency situation. The last thing I want if you were to get laid off or if someone is to get sick or, we just had all these hurricanes happen. Like the last thing I want for you is thinking, how can I financially navigate this? How can I afford this? I can't afford this when you're already grieving or processing something else. And the final thing, and this is especially, I work largely with women, I need you to have fuck off money. I need you to have enough money that you can leave an unhealthy or toxic situation. I have so many emails from women, so many messages from women on a weekly basis telling me that they're in a toxic job, they're in a violent, abusive relationship, and they cannot leave because they do not have the money to leave. That is the last thing I want for you. So I will get to the actual debt payoff strategies in a second, but we're going to save that emergency fund first for those reasons. It should be at least 3 months of living expenses in a high yield savings account. A high yield savings account is just like an everyday savings account, except it's offering you more in interest, which means that you get to your goals faster. So we actually have the one we recommend on our website if you go to herfirst100k.com/tools. Okay, let's talk about debt. The number one reason women go into debt is they don't understand how it works. That's not because you're stupid. That's not because you're dumb. It's because somebody never taught you. So debt is made up of two primary components, the principal and the interest. The principal is the original amount of money. So if you put $1,000 on a credit card and you didn't pay it off at the end of the month, you let it roll into the next cycle, you have $1,000 of credit card debt. But of course, the credit card is not going to just say, yeah, that's fine. You can take that money. They're going to charge you interest, just like any other debt, student loans, mortgages, right? They're going to charge you interest in addition. The reason credit cards feel so rough is because, one, the interest rate is really high. The average interest rate for credit cards is 22%. That's really, really high. The other reason they feel so painful is that the interest compounds every single day. So that means that every day you're not just paying interest on that $1,000, you're paying interest on $1,000 plus yesterday's interest and plus the day before's interest, right? And then you're getting 22% on all of the interest in addition to the $1,000. So that's where the snowball happens. That's where you feel like, okay, I'm trying to dig myself out of this hole, but sand is still falling in. So the best way to pay off any kind of debt, credit cards, student loans, mortgages, medical debt, car loans, anything, is to work to pay down the principal so that you're paying less in interest, right? If I can take that $1,000 principal to $800, well, now my interest is not accumulating as fast. It's not earning as much interest. So in addition to your monthly payments, in addition to your normal payment you would make, you want to contribute what extra money you have after you save that emergency fund towards paying off the principal. And I have a script of how to do this in my book because unfortunately, a lot of debt collectors or debt payoff companies, your credit card company, does not want to make this easy for you. When I had my car loan, I remember like submitting $50 extra one month because I got a little bit extra money. and it just made like the next month's payment cheaper. It didn't actually like eliminate part of the actual debt. So I remember calling them and I was like, hi, first of all, the fact that I had to get it on a phone at all is crazy. And I called them and I was like, hi, how do I contribute to the principal of this loan? Which is what you're going to ask them. How do I contribute to the principal of this loan? And they go, oh, well, you can definitely do that, but you're going to have to send a different check to a PO box in Iowa, whose address I'm only going to tell you now because you asked. They are sneaky. They want to make you jump through hoops because the longer you stay in debt, the more money they make off of you. So again, to recap, principal and interest, those are the two kinds of components to debt. If we can start chipping away at the principal, our debt is going to be eliminated faster. And then, of course, once we get out of debt, we want to stay out of debt. So this means looking at our money, getting a knowledge base of how to navigate the personal finance basics, but also knowing that, okay, these are my emotional triggers. I'm more likely to spend money when this is happening, or I'm spending money on this thing I don't really care about. So to get out of debt is one thing, but to stay out of debt is a whole other challenge that is very doable, but it does take work. It's just like any other self-care practice.
So let's talk about how to make your credit cards work for you. My favorite topic, and I know that you do it too because I've seen some of your posts, is points. I fucking love points. It has changed my life. It's changed my travel life. And when I tell people about this, they're like, wait a minute, so you flew in business class and you only paid for the taxes? I'm like, yes, you got to pick the right cards. So I would love for you to talk a little bit about how credit cards can actually be a good thing if you know how to use them correctly.
Credit cards, just like any other tool, can make your life really great. They can also make your life really challenging. I joke they're like a knife, right? Knives are used to cut vegetables. They're very useful tools. They can also cut your arm open, right? Like they're used responsibly. They're fantastic. So you're exactly what I would recommend. You're doing exactly what I love to do as well. As you start building your credit and as you start building your financial life, you can qualify for better and better and better credit cards. I'm at the point in my financial life and have been for a couple of years now where I am at the metal credit card era. Like I am in my metal credit card era, which are these like travel rewards credit cards. So I have, I could list all the benefits for you. I get TSA PreCheck for free. I can go through, security in under 5 minutes in any airport in the country. I can go eat a really, really nice meal once I get through the airport, and I travel a lot. So this is fantastic. If you don't travel a lot, but you're just trying to get travel discounted, well, great. You can use your points and redeem them for hotel stays, for rental cars, for gift cards. But my favorite, and sounds like your favorite too, is that you can redeem them for flights to the point where you can, fly business class to Europe, which is a thing I've done the past 2 summers. I've paid for myself and my partner to fly lie down flat seats in business class to Europe for $90, $70, just the taxes and fees. So basically for free. These tickets normally are like $5,000 to $8,000 a piece.
Yeah.
A piece. Yep. And so there's something so powerful, again, about using money as a tool responsibly, because these credit cards basically allow me to discount my life, to upgrade my life in ways that I never would have thought possible. And it's absolutely incredible once you start realizing the power of these. So we have the credit cards I use linked also on that tools page I mentioned before on our website. But yeah, it's, again, you don't have to, the other misconception too I want to debunk is, one, do you have to travel a lot to do this? No. And the other one is, do I have to spend a lot to do this? Like, you also don't. You can, bank up your points and maybe spend them on economy class to somewhere else in the US or, to Europe. You don't have to fly business class. You don't have to, fly across the country. I think a lot of people use credit card points as a nice way of, almost like a second emergency fund. I have had friends who, oh, I had a wedding that I didn't plan on attending this year, but I really want to go. I didn't budget for it. I'll use credit card points to fly to California and for my 2 nights in a hotel, right? Or, a lot of it is like my family, something happens in your family, somebody gets sick, you got to fly out really quick. Cool. That's not as much of a hit to your bottom line and your budget. So you don't have to do these lavish big trips. It doesn't, I'm a multimillionaire. You don't have to be a multimillionaire to do this. You don't have to be a businessman in a suit. Anybody can do this.
And it gives you so much financial freedom, right? It's just so amazing. Like when I started learning about all of these perks, that it's actually like the people who are smart with their money and who probably are rich, who are not spending as much as we think that they probably are. And that to me was kind of crazy. I would love to talk about investing. Investing is one of these topics that are kind of like math questions, like math problems when we think about them for some people. And I would love to touch on like maybe what are the basics of investing for somebody who's listening and doesn't really understand what investing is. Where would you have someone start? Talk to me like I'm a high schooler.
Yeah. I'll even do one better. I'll give you 5th grade investing. I want to say first that what you just said, I want to debunk because it's a common misconception that in order to be good with money or to be good at investing, I have to be good at math. I majored in theater, everybody. I have a theater degree and a marketing degree. I don't have a degree in finance. I didn't get an MBA from a really fancy university. This is information that has been gatekept from you for a reason. The reason you believe that you have to have some sort of insider knowledge to be successful is because the patriarchy has convinced you of that. So you either don't take steps to better your financial future, or so that you hand your money over to a man and have them do it for you. Whether that is your partner or your dad or somebody else. And again, they could be very well intentioned, but then you don't have any idea of what's going on with your money and you will never learn that way. Or you're handing money to and I'm putting this in the most massive air quotes possible, a financial professional who's actually really bad at their job. But because he has a degree in finance and his name's Chad and he wears a Patagonia vest, we think they're qualified. And actually, only 25% of professional stock pickers in the last 10 years have outperformed individual investors, which is you and I and anybody listening. You don't need a Wall Street Chad to save you. You just need to learn how. So when it comes to investing, I have, again, I'm shamelessly plugging, but because we can't talk for 2 hours about this, I have an entire chapter in my book about investing. I also have a program that's called Stock Market School, where we not only teach you how to invest step by step, but you can actually invest through the platform. Like it's an investing platform. We've had $80 million invested by 80% of the people with that 80 million have never invested before. And we're actually on the front page of the New York Times business section for our work, which was pretty fucking cool. So investing, let's debunk a couple common myths. One, investing is just for rich people. It is not. You actually don't need as much money as you think you do. Speaking of the credit cards, you need like $50. That's all you need to get started. I would actually on Stock Market School, you can start investing with like $5 or $10. But you need as much time as possible because of compound interest. I was talking about compound interest before with debt, right? And that's where compound interest can hurt you. Compound interest, though, can help you when it comes to investing because your interest is earning interest is earning interest. And that is the tool that makes investing so powerful. And compound interest works the best it can work when you give yourself as much time as possible. So every day you spend thinking, oh, I don't know enough about this, or I need to do more research, but then you do 4 hours of research and you don't actually take action, or you think, oh, I'll do that later. I'll do it when I have more money. No, I want you to get started now because every day you wait to invest, you actually lose money. Second common misconception is that investing is risky because we see all of these finance bros shorting GameStop and talking about day trading and like crypto, and that is gambling. That kind of investing is risky because they are viewing investing as a day-to-day strategy. Invest, right? The very definition of the word invest is to put money, energy into something for a long period of time, right? When we invest in ourselves, we don't expect to walk out of our first therapy session completely okay, right? And we don't expect to go to the gym once and look like The Rock, right? But for some reason with investing, we want the get rich quick scheme. But it's a scheme. It does not work. So there are so many ways to invest that are well diversified, meaning that you're not putting all of your eggs in one basket and you're not trying to pick the hot stock. That is actually some of the most risky type of investing. So we talk about this more again in stock market school, but what you can do is you aren't selecting individual stocks. I'm not buying Apple or Nvidia or, Tesla. I'm buying groups of stocks through what's called an index fund. So an index fund is not just one or two cherry-picked companies. It's hundreds, if not thousands of companies that help mitigate your risk. And that way also, I'm picking the winning stock every time because I have all of these companies that I've invested in. And finally, when it comes to investing, again, there's this belief that it's too complicated, so I can't do it for myself. And that's just not true. Like, I've taught tens of thousands of women how to do it for themselves. It's really not actually that complicated. It just feels complicated. So Wall Street bros can keep their jobs.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. So if we were looking at like a Roth IRA, a traditional Roth IRA versus would it be a Roth IRA versus a traditional? What is the difference between those two? And where should I be looking at my money?
Yeah.
So where should I be looking at putting my money in?
Yeah. So when we talk about investing, you're exactly right. We have these accounts, these investing accounts, 401ks, IRAs. These are what's called tax advantaged. This means that the government is incentivizing you to save for retirement by offering you tax breaks. This is the smartest account you can actually invest through. But those are not your investments. They are the account that holds your investments. This is the number one mistake I see new investors make, is they treat it like it's a bank account. If you were to go to a bank account and you put $1,000 in, right? You put $1,000 in, you're done. You don't have to do anything else. But I talk about investing as a two-step process. You have to put your money in, and then you have to choose your investments. So, for instance, if I open up a Roth IRA and I put $1,000 in, that's step one. I then have to take that $1,000 and go buy investments. And we were talking about that before. I would go in and purchase index funds. That's step two. This costs women millions of dollars, is they put the money into the account and then they do not do step two. So the money just sits,
just compounding, sitting there.
Yes, because no one's taught them. No one's taught them. So it's in financial purgatory. It is costing you millions of dollars unless you do step two. So you want to open the account, put money in, and then choose your investments. So we have, again, more information, but there's 401ks. The difference between a traditional and a Roth IRA, or a traditional 401k and the Roth 401k, is how they're taxed. A traditional 401k or IRA means that you're paying tax on the money when you retire because Uncle Sam's got to get his cut some way. I personally like Roth options for a couple reasons. One, it's like giving 65-year-old me a little gift. It's like, here, take this lump sum of money that younger you paid. You don't have to pay tax again. You don't have to worry about it. Go take your hot Pilates instructor named Luca on a trip, which is my real life retirement plan, and go drink Sauvignon Blanc with lunch and go buy that Italian villa where you can foster dogs. Like, you don't have to worry about it. The second reason why I like the Roth is that I know what taxes are right now. I don't know what they're going to be when I retire. They could be better. They'll probably be Hunger Games. Like, it'll probably be worse. So I'd rather pay the taxes now because I know what they are. So that's the basic difference between some of those accounts. But I cannot emphasize this enough. I need you to get started. This is just so common. What I see with women especially is they get in this analysis paralysis where, again, they feel like they have to research everything, but really that research is an excuse because they're too scared to take action. And I have so much empathy and grace for that fear, because that fear is not accidental. That fear is not that fear is not unique. That is a very common thing. But you not taking action literally costs you money every single day.
Okay, so I'm going to use myself as an example just so I can apply it to real life scenarios. So I left the federal system, so I have the TSP, which is kind of like a 401k, right? So if I was to take that money, so let's say it's $75,000. So if I was to take that money, put it in a traditional Roth, I would pay the taxes on it later, versus if I did it in a regular Roth IRA, I would have to pay taxes on it now. So if I don't have the money to pay the taxes on it now, it would be better to put it in a traditional Roth.
This is where we get into, it's not a traditional Roth. It's a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA. And actually, You rolling money that was in like a 401k equivalent into an IRA, if you roll it, this is where it gets a little tricky. If you have a traditional 401k, and I'm just going to use that as your example here, and you roll it into a traditional IRA, there's no tax implications there. You went from apples to apples. But if you go traditional 401k to Roth IRA, you're going apples to oranges. So you're then going to have to pay the tax, which is totally fine. But the thing about when we say paying the tax, and this is where it gets like pretty obscure. So for those listening, I want to answer your question, but I also don't want somebody to get too confused. When we say paying the tax, you're not actually writing the IRS an additional check. What it means with Roth IRAs is that you're not deducting that money that you're putting in, your contributions, from your total income. So if you made $50K this year and you put in the maximum in a Roth IRA, which is $7,000 as of this recording, if you're under 50, you're still taxed at $50,000 as your income. Versus if you opened a traditional IRA and put $7,000 in, the IRS is now going to say, oh, no, we're just going to tax you at $43,000 as your income. So we talk about it as like paying the tax now versus paying the tax later, but really that's what's happening. It's either a deduction now or it's a deduction later. I would rather wait to have that deduction and quote unquote pay the tax now so that I don't have to worry, or 65-year-old cute little grandma Tori doesn't have to worry about the tax implications then.
Okay, got it. That makes sense. Yeah, I think that understanding the basics, if the one thing that I got out of that is don't wait. Don't wait to start investing, because the longer you wait, the more money that you lose from that compound interest. So when we're talking about independence, especially with women and money, I want to know your opinion on a prenup. Should women consider a prenup if they're going to get married?
1,000%. And here's why.
Why?
Prenups get a bad rep. Prenup is a dirty word. Prenups are associated with generational wealth and with gold diggers and with really, really rich men and, women 40 years their junior, right? That is the brand the prenup has right now. But fun fact, if you are married anywhere in the US, if you are married, you have a prenup already. You just don't know it. When you get married in whatever state, I'm in Washington State, I'm in Seattle, the prenup that has been drafted up for, me and my partner is that in Washington State, if we were to separate, it gets 50-50 split. That is the prenup. You already have a prenup, and it's the government telling you what's going to happen. I don't want the government in my business. I don't want the government in my body. I don't want the government in my marriage or in my relationship. And I especially don't want them deciding what's going to happen to my money or to my partner's money if we were to separate. And we do know that half of marriages right now are ending in separation. So a common misconception is that you need a bunch of assets in order to do this. That's not true. It's you deciding what you want your relationship to look like. And there's also data that says if you at least just go through the prenup process, meaning you're having conversations about money, you're talking about what your assets are, what your debt is, what sort of financial goals you have individually as well as together, you're actually less likely to need the prenup. You're less likely to divorce because you're having conversations about money. The number one stressor for Americans generally is money. The number one cause of relationships ending is money. So actually, the best thing you can do for your marriage and the future of your marriage is to sit down and have a conversation about money and have that prenup. And again, it's not about assets. It's not about you guys having one person having millions and millions and millions of dollars, although definitely get a prenup for that. It's more about having the conversations and you both deciding what happens should you separate. I will also say that I have seen countless women get absolutely fucked over because they have not legally protected themselves. And of course, I don't hope that for you. I never want you to be in a situation where your relationship ends. But it happens. We see it. And I want you to be protected in that. I want you to make sure that you are going to walk out of that relationship feeling financially okay.
when do we have that conversation? So I go into a relationship where I'm dating somebody. I know I want a prenup, man or woman, doesn't matter.
Yep.
At what point do we sit down and have a conversation about money? Do we wait until we're engaged? Do we
Definitely
do it
not.
on the first date? Do we do it when we're getting married?
I am unique where, personal finance is my life. So I've talked about money with anybody in my life. My partner and I have been together for 2.5 years. We had a conversation about money technically on the first date. I'll tell this story because I think it's cute. He knows what I do. He's Googled me. We met at a bar. And so, what we did for work ended up coming up. So, he went home before the date, Googled me, was like, my net worth uniquely is like not entirely accurate, but it's there, right? I'm a multimillionaire. Yeah. He also knows, I am both publicly and privately very feminist. That's, a huge value for me. So we had this great date and, the conversation was really great. And then I was like, oh, I'm really liking this guy. And the check comes. And he kind of looks at me and then looks down at the check and looks back at me. And I just asked him, I was like, what's up? What's going on? And he goes, I would really like to pay, but I don't want to offend you. Can I pay? And it was like the sexiest thing ever, first of all, of just that emotional intelligence. But it was like, that was the first conversation we had about money in a way, right? He could tell like, okay, I would like to do this chivalrous thing. I would like to pay. But I also don't want to make her feel like she, doesn't have a say in this or doesn't have, her own money. So can I do this? Can I pay? And we ended up having lots of conversations about money, even before we're officially a couple, because we were figuring out, okay, who's going to pay for what on the date? What is the responsibility there? And, money, especially when I first met him, was a much bigger stressor in his life. He does not make nearly as much money as I do. And so we were having a lot of conversations about money very early on. When you said, should we talk when we're engaged? I shook my head very emphatically. I need you to have conversations way before then. It doesn't have to start, and it shouldn't start, frankly, with the first conversation being prenup. That should not be the first time you ever talk about money. You should be having conversations about money just as if you'd have conversations about what you want in the bedroom, or if you want children, or what your values are, right? It is the same sort of conversation. My tip for couples, this is my number one tip to have productive conversations about money. Money is a tool. Money is a tool to help you build the life that you want and to help you build your relationship into what you want it to be. So when you have conversations about money, start with the thing you want that has nothing to do with money, really. Okay, I think we want kids in 5 years. How do we use money as a tool to get there? Okay, travel's really important to us. We want to be able to travel internationally once every 2 years. How do we use money as a tool to get there, right? So you're starting with the thing that's fun, and then you're on the same team trying to build toward that thing. You're using money as a tool to get there. I want a relationship that is so fruitful and honest and is, I never want money to be the reason we're staying in this relationship. I never want money to be the reason that one of us can't leave. Can we talk about what money looks like in our marriage? Can we talk about what money would look like if, we were having conversations about a prenuptial agreement? Like, those sorts of conversations are so powerful because they come from a place of, I want this to work. I want this to be great. I want us to build a life that we both really love and a relationship we're really proud of. I will also say these talks should not come as like one of you's leaving for work or like one of you's going to play pickleball or one of you, like, it should not happen as like one of you's exiting the room or, in the throes of everyday crazy life. And this is why I have a practice that I call the money date. And you need to do this money date regardless of whether you're in a relationship or not. But it's a self-care practice for your money where you're sitting down for a designated amount of time. I would recommend at least once a month and looking at your money. It's non-negotiable. You can make it an actual date with your partner or a date with yourself where, it's wine and it's takeout from your favorite restaurant and you're looking at your bills, you're setting financial goals, you're optimizing your life. And then you can have those conversations with your romantic partner about hey, how do we afford to have this wedding that we really want in a year? Hey, how do we afford to move in together and, split the rent? And what does that look like? So those conversations need to be happening way before you even get engaged. And I would argue that it's going to, and the data proves this, that your relationship is going to be way better off for it.
Joint account or separate account?
This is one of my only hard and fast rules I have about money. I usually say, I'm like, personal finance is personal because everybody's different. One of the only rules I have is that each of you should always have some of your own money, because the disastrous part, I need you to get out if you need to get out. The fun part, I need you to be able to spend some of your money on things that you love without having to consult your partner. And I also want you to be able to buy gifts for that person without them knowing, because that's kind of fun. So what I recommend, joint account for joint expenses, your rent, your groceries, etc. Separate accounts that protect you.
I agree with everything that you said. And, part of it, I ask myself, like, am I coming from a fear-based mindset? But, my independence is my safety. I've been through the ringer with shit, with men, with having to build everything on my own. And yeah, there's a part of me that is fucking terrified that the wrong person can come in and completely tear down everything that I've built. And so I am a protective mama bear when it comes to my assets, my money, and I'm all for prenup. If I ever get married again, by the way, does your man have a brother? Because he sounds amazing. But if that happens, then I 100% would want to have a prenup conversation, and I would probably have separate bank accounts. I don't even know if I would share a joint, but maybe if I felt very safe. I think you hit the nail on the head, and go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, we never completely combine, but you can 100% separate, if that makes sense. So yeah, it should be never 100% combined, but it can be 100% separate if that does make sense for you.
So does money buy happiness, in your opinion?
Fuck yes, it does. Fuck yes, it does. Okay. Money can buy you stability and safety and ease. And I would argue that's happiness. Now, this is one of the myths I as well debunk in the book and that I post about all the time online, because again, I think it's one of those narratives meant to keep women playing small and meant to keep women from pursuing money. On its face, it does make sense, right? If I am depressed and I go out and buy a Porsche, that's not going to make my life better. But money gets me into a safer apartment. Money gives me the ability to get out of a toxic relationship. Money gives the ability to travel. I literally posted on my Instagram yesterday. I did a poll. I think 8,000 women responded. Does money make you happier? Like, when you have money, are you happier? And 96% of them said yes. And then I asked them, how does money buy you happiness? And we got responses from, I could pay for $30,000 IVF treatments so I could have children, to I could travel to see alien family members and I didn't have to worry about the expense, to I got to eat healthy food. I get to give myself healthy food in a way that feels sustainable for me. I want every single woman on this planet to feel what I feel, which is absolute total expansion. And just, I love being able to say no when I want to say no and to say yes when I want to say yes. And money affords me that. And I think that that's just that's the feeling I want for you. That's the feeling I want for every single woman on this planet. And I would argue that the ability to say yes or the ability to say no for many, many women, I think for all women really, is that's happiness.
Autonomy. Autonomy is happiness, and money can buy autonomy. My Libra self, my Libra side is like, that's what I want. It's not the things, it's the ability to have the things. It's the ability to say yes. It's the ability to say no. It's the ability to have freedom, right? And I think that right there is priceless.
Yeah, I throw money to causes I believe in without a second thought. I can, I started my business. I employ 15 women. I give women jobs because I have money. This business has changed women's lives across the world because I've had the money to do that. I've been able to travel to countless countries, and it's so incredibly powerful. And in a society and in a world that wants to keep women playing small, that wants to make you tired and overworked and depleted, money buys your time back. Money allows you to have nice things. And I'm not even talking material things, but therapy and self-care and the things that actually make your life better, right? And that's where something that, really annoys me is a lot of people will look at my work and they'll go, oh, personal finance is kind of a niche thing, right? And I'm like, no. Do you want anything? Okay, then you need money. Do you want to have children? You need money. Do you want to buy a house? You need money. Do you want to go, again, to the grocery store and buy healthy food? You need money. And again, nothing bad happens when women have more money.
What advice would you have to your younger self? Looking back at your whole career, your upbringing, how you got here, would you change anything? And what would you say to your younger self?
This is going to sound cliche as hell, but I think that every opportunity has the ability to teach us something. So no regrets. But my biggest thing that I always say when I get asked this question, it actually has nothing to do with money. I would just worry less. Like, I am a very anxious person. I worry a lot. And especially as somebody who is ambitious, I worry about how things are going to work out. I remember in high school, I worried about getting good enough grades so I could get into a good college. In college, I worried about getting a good job. And then in my job, I worried about, performing well enough. And I was worried I was going to get fired constantly, even though I was, very good at my job. And I just have spent so much of my life worrying about what's next. And as cliche as it sounds, I'm really trying to spend my time enjoying what I have now, because it all worked out. Even the situations that were so shitty or that felt super uncomfortable or that in the moment I did not want to go through, that sometimes took years to overcome and process. God, I'm really glad they happened, because I learned a lot and I realized how strong I am. And also I realized that worrying didn't accomplish anything. It didn't make it easier. It didn't help me navigate that situation any better. And I think you can apply that to money too. If you are so stressed and so worried about it, that you're not enjoying your life, that you're not enjoying and understanding how to, move past that worry, that's not a very fun experience in life to live. So I have really just tried to remind myself that I have figured it out and I will continue to figure it out. And that worry doesn't prep me for any situation any better.
Tori, thank you. Thank you for what you do on camera, off camera, behind the scenes. You're killing the patriarchy. It's part of the work, right?
I'm trying.
You're helping women. Yeah. And you're doing the damn thing, right? Like you're doing the work that women need, because we need to be educated. We need someone to help us. And a lot of us didn't have that growing up. So you are doing such important work, and just thank you for what you do behind the camera, what you do for women. I can tell you're passionate about what you do. I found your page and I was like, I like her. I want to have her on. So just thank you. Thank you for everything you do. And thank you for coming on the show.
I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.